Terrence Crawford is one of the greatest boxers I have ever seen, and I'll stand on it.
Terrence Crawford just beat Canelo Alvarez decisively to become the new.
I think Bud Crawford is the Michael Jordan of boxing. I don't think Bud a human like.
It's flawless. I mean, Terrence Crawford.
Terrence Bud Crawford is on my Mount Rushmore best boxers of all time.
He dominated. I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna give Canelo 2 rounds. 2 rounds. Dominate.
Them voices got really, really quiet like they typically do when they get proven wrong. And they either try to jump on the wagon or they get very, very quiet and they start to retreat back to wherever they came from.
Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans, analysts, and truth seekers alike. Today we will examine a case of misinformation in the court of boxing opinion.
Did you see what Terrence Bud Crawford did to Canelo Alvarez on September the 13th? I mean, he dominated Canelo. He dismantled him. He beat him for all 12 rounds. It was the most impressive thing I've ever seen because Canelo was way bigger than Terrence Crawford. Canelo was huge, and Crawford still destroyed him. The judges were against Crawford. The announcers were against Crawford. The size was against Crawford. And he still overcame all of the odds and destroyed Canelo Alvarez. Terrence Crawford is one of the greatest boxers I have ever seen. And I'll stand on it.
What I witnessed last night was the greatest win I've ever seen.
That boy, Terrence Crawford dominates Canelo Alvarez. The truth is that Terrence Crawford is the greatest fighter of all time. He's greater than Roy Jones Jr. He's greater than Manny Pacquiao, greater than Oscar De La Hoya, greater than Sugar Ray Leonard. He's greater than Floyd Mayweather. Terrence Crawford, he destroyed the bigger man. Now that's boxing. That's what I want to see. That's boxing.
This video claims to expose a false narrative surrounding Terrence Bud Crawford's historic victory over Saul Canelo Alvarez in their super middleweight championship match this past September. But once we cross-examine the evidence, what we actually find is selective editing, misleading arguments, and a complete disregard for context. So today, we'll lay out the facts, piece by piece, and reveal the truth about Terrence Crawford's win.
I don't know what everybody's booing for. Guys making a run at immortality with no catch rate, no rehydration clause, no excuses. That is so rare in today's boxing.
It really goes with his personality, Mark, because he's never backed down from any challenge.
At 168, I think that's his best weight, Mario.
And that's the thing, Mike. He dares to be great. He takes on the best challenges. He's challenged himself on a higher weight. He's now facing pound for pound, arguably the best fighter in the game. That's why it means so much to their legacy.
We keep hearing about Terrence Crawford and Canelo on the same size, and they clearly are. Am I blind? Yeah. Well, I'm surprised. I think that Crawford thinks of himself as the bigger fighter. He's also the kind of guy, it's wrestling strength. When he wrestled as a kid, he's really good at that. He refuses to be manhandled.
Going for Bud, if he fight Canelo, I'll be going for him. I mean, I don't know if he gonna win or lose, but I definitely be going Crawford, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that Canelo's going to win? No. Really? No. So you would put your money on Crawford? Yes. You may.
I was almost 40 years old when I cooked this dude. Easy.
Bud and Canelo.
That's a tough fight. I saw Bud recently. He's big.
Bud big in your face. He's strong in your face.
He's strong too. Canelo is accustomed to fighting at the weight. Canelo is accustomed to fighting at the weight.
The video attempts to discredit Crawford's victory by claiming that Canelo wasn't actually the bigger man. That argument completely ignores the real discussion. When fans talked about Canelo's size, they weren't referring to height or reach. They were referring to his ability to carry the weight. Canelo has competed as high as light heavyweight. The highest Terence Crawford had ever been was 154 pounds one time. And that was only after just getting legitimacy at 147 pounds welterweight after beating Errol Spence. So yes, the size mattered because it wasn't about dimensions. It was about strength, durability, and muscle mass. Crawford overcame that. That is not an illusion. That is greatness.
He's also someone that partnered with the same suspicious individual that Terence Crawford is partnered with, Victor Conte.
Then comes the attempt to link Terence Crawford with Victor Conte. A clear effort to try to imply something sinister about performance-enhancing drugs. No evidence, no failed tests, just speculation. In legal terms, that is called character assassination without basis. Often used when facts don't support your case. Crawford's record is clean. His testing history is public. And the accusation? Empty.
Act 1. In the first round, Canelo opened up well, pressing forward, landing a couple of hard body shots and pressing hard shots to Crawford's guard. Crawford also lands a clean left hand upstairs on Canelo. After these things occurred, the second announcer, Max Kellerman, inaccurately says, quote, "Everything that Canelo has thrown so far, it's been blocked."
Everything Canelo's thrown so far, it's been with force, but it's been blocked.
This is severely inaccurate. This inaccurate commentary was coupled with misleading narratives from Andre Ward that presented Terence Crawford as the smaller man.
Canelo looks slightly bigger than Terence.
This false narrative was spun multiple times during the fight, although you can see that Crawford is not a smaller man.
Now we reach the most deceptive segment, the fight commentary breakdown. The narrator focuses on snippets from 3 rounds to try to explain the entirety of the fight. Those rounds being the 1st, the 10th, and the 11th. In round 1, he claims the commentators ignored Canelo's bodywork and only focused on Crawford's left hand. But as Max Kellerman said, most of Canelo's shots were blocked. They either landed on the elbows or forearms. Only one clean punch landed that round, Crawford's left hand. The narrator himself even acknowledges this when he refers to Crawford's left hand as clean, but refers to Canelo's bodywork as pressing Crawford's guard. That is why the left hand was shown on the replay. Networks typically highlight significant punches, not blocked ones. Ironically, he accuses the commentators of misleading viewers while trying to convince the viewers that Canelo was landing body shots while showing blocked ones.
It's been with force, but it's been blocked.
This is severely inaccurate. This inaccurate commentary was coupled with...
That is a blocked body shot.
Canelo Alvarez clearly slips a jab from Terence Crawford. He ducks underneath the jab and avoids it. Instead of acknowledging the good defense from Canelo, the commentator says, quote, good counter jab from Crawford, as if Crawford actually landed the jab. Crawford completely missed the jab as Canelo ducked under it, but the commentator is praising Terence Crawford for a jab he did not even come close to landing.
Here he argues that commentators gave Crawford credit for a jab that never landed. Crawford was not being praised for the landed punch, but rather for the strategy behind it.
Neck as wide as Broadway, for crying out loud. Right. The thing that I don't like about Canelo is that it's like almost every shot has to be a power shot.
There was a right hand that was going to come behind that jab that Canelo threw. But Canelo was unable to throw that right hand because Crawford's counter jab came so quickly behind Canelo's jab. That's what was being praised. There was a chess match happening that clearly the narrator of this video did not understand.
Act 5. Canelo Alvarez lands a heavy right hand around Terence Crawford's guard to the side of his head that clearly knocks Terence Crawford off balance. Instead of acknowledging the impact or force of the right hand, Max Kellerman decides to praise Crawford's resilience and punch resistance.
What was attempted to be done there was to not take credit away nor give any undue credit to anyone for that exchange, because what happened was Canelo did in fact land a punch and they didn't want to take that away from him, but that stumble was the cause of feet getting tangled, not because of any power. You can actually see it in the clip, but the narrator, because he clearly has an axe to grind, ignores it and just focuses on Crawford losing his balance and not why it actually happened.
Canelo Alvarez lands a heavy right hand around Terence Crawford's guard to the lands a heavy right hand around Terence lands a heavy right hand around lands a heavy right hand around. Instead of acknowledging the impact or force of the right hand, Max Kellerman decides to praise Crawford's resilience and punch resistance.
The resilience of Crawford's, his punch resistance at this weight has been impressive.
And it was. Again, Canelo actually landed that punch. And Max Kellerman didn't want to take that away from him, so he acknowledged that the punch landed. Crawford stumbles over his foot, not because of the punch, and after he regains his footing, he circles right back to the center of the ring and stands in front of Canelo, ready to trade, showing his punch resistance. It was impressive. Max Kellerman was doing an excellent job of talking about what was happening in the fight without skewing the narrative one way or another. He was just merely going over what was happening within that fight.
Of the 10th round, Canelo Alvarez lands a sweeping right hand that knocks Crawford off balance again. Instead of acknowledging that Crawford was knocked off balance, Kellerman calmly says, good right hand from Canelo.
Good right hand from Canelo.
And Andre Ward, not only does he ignore the right hand, he goes so far as to undermine the right hand and says, quote, Crawford's thinking, that's all you got, as if he was inside of Crawford's head himself.
That's all you got?
Again, crafting a narrative that completely favors Terence Crawford and diminishes Canelo's work, because this response from Ward suggests that Canelo's clearly landed punch was not effective.
Again, he's making the same complaint for the same reason. It was a punch that landed, but as you can see in the still shot right here, their feet get tangled. Now, the narrator is claiming, well, let me rephrase. He's not claiming to be a boxing expert, but he did make a distinction saying that this would easily fool someone who is a novice at watching boxing or is a casual fan, which would imply that he's not, since he's trying to educate the ones that were quote unquote fooled by the quote unquote puppet show. So as a veteran of watching boxing, he would know that a lot of times when an orthodox fighter fights a southpaw or an individual in the southpaw stance like Crawford was, their lead legs, their lead feet typically get tangled because they're on the same side. And there's usually another chess match going on with the fighters trying to gain the advantage with their foot being on the outside to give them more movement. So the tangling of feet happens often. People who watch boxing are aware of that. So as long as it's not significant as far as somebody getting dropped and you have to acknowledge, oh no, he didn't get dropped by the punch, he tripped over his foot, they typically don't even go over it because it can skew the fight to be one way or the other. They just acknowledge the punch, the fight, the situation for what it is. This is what Max Kellerman was doing there. Andre Ward, again, sees Crawford not retreating from the punch, but staying there to exchange. That is, in and of itself, an expression of, oh, that's it? That's all you have? Because I'm not running. I want more. I want you to throw more because it opens you up and then I can land mine. At the end of the day, Crawford's victory over Canelo wasn't the product of biased commentary, fan delusion, or some kind of conspiracy. It was the result of pure skill, discipline, and execution.